Canada cannot be a passive bystander. So I say this very clearly. What President Trump is doing is reprehensible.
With everything going on in the U.S. right now, a lot of people are looking to world leaders for some kind of response. So far, I've really seen nothing. I mean, the closest I've seen to somebody calling out Trump is the Australian Prime Minister calling for an investigation into why Australian reporters were attacked by police during a peaceful protest in D.C. But apart from that, I got something else to show you here. So here are a couple different examples from Canada. The first video I'm going to show you here is Liberal Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his reaction. And as you're going to see, it caused quite a bit of a controversy. Watch.
You've been reluctant to comment on the words and actions of the U.S. president, but we do have Donald Trump now calling for military action against protesters. We saw protesters tear gas yesterday to make way for a presidential photo op. I'd like to ask you what you think about that, and if you don't want to comment, what message do you think you're sending?
We all watch in horror and consternation what's going on in the United States. It is a time to pull people together, but it is a time to listen. It is a time to learn what injustices continue despite progress over years and decades. But it is a time for us as Canadians to recognize that we too have our challenges, that Black Canadians and racialized Canadians face discrimination as a lived reality every single day. There is systemic discrimination in Canada, which means our systems treat Canadians of color, Canadians who are racialized, differently than they do others. It is something that many of us don't see, but it is something that is a lived reality for racialized Canadians. We need to see that, not just as a government and take action, but we need to see that as Canadians. We need to be allies in the fight against discrimination. We need to listen, we need to learn, and we need to work hard to figure out how we can be part of the solution on fixing things. This government has done a number of things over the past years, but there is lots more to do, and we will continue to do that because we see you, we see the discrimination that racialized Canadians live every single day.
Why, though, are you so reluctant to comment directly on the words and the actions of the U.S. president?
My job as a Canadian Prime Minister is to stand up for Canadians, to stand up for our interests, to stand up for our values. That is what I have done from the very beginning, and that is what I will continue to do. Canadians need a government that will be there for them, that will support them, and that will move us forward in the right direction.
All right. So, this silence there, the 21 seconds of silence, this received a lot of praise from Liberals. They saw it as, oh, Trudeau didn't even have to say anything. I mean, we knew exactly with his 21 seconds of silence, it was clear what he was telling us. I mean, it's like I have a speech to give on a very important topic. I go up there and say nothing for 5 minutes. Oh, David's speech, he didn't have to say anything. We just knew. We just knew what he was telling us. It's like, this is not deserving of any praise. Now, either you may still think it's intentional, and it may have been intentional. But even if it was intentional, that doesn't mean it was good. That means he's avoiding actually responding to what Donald Trump is doing. Now, you could say maybe, that the later part of that answer was fine. But look, often the defense here always is, well, Trudeau has to tread carefully because, he's got to deal with the Americans. He doesn't want to turn anybody off, doesn't want to upset anybody. Yet, why is that same thinking never applied to Donald Trump, who says whatever he wants and gets whatever he wants? Maybe liberals should be using a different strategy. If you actually want to get what you want, maybe you fight a little more. Stop bowing down. You have to be the aggressor, or you're going to be essentially defeated. Your message will be defeated by somebody who is to the right of you in their ability to be brash and really not care. So, no, this was not a good answer. Now, again, sure, the last half, yeah, he said, I guess, what you would expect Trudeau to say. But actually, before I even get to Jagmeet Singh and his response, my favorite response to Trudeau's 21 seconds of silence here was this from former Liberal MP Selina Cesar-Chauvin, who tweeted out, "If you still don't know how long to wash your hands for during the global pandemic, watch this." Obviously pointing out to the fact that he was silent for 20 seconds. Now, let me show you the response here a day later from NDP leader Jagmeet Singh.
Well, I want to take a moment to reflect on this. This is a very important thing. When I was a kid, I remember being bullied or picked on physically and with words. And I remember that there would be bystanders that would watch, maybe laugh along, or maybe say nothing. And the kids that said nothing didn't help me in any way. The silence didn't stop the blows that I felt. The silence didn't stop the painful words. It is important. It is vitally important that people are not passive bystanders. When people are being killed simply for expressing their dissent, for protesting because they're frustrated and angry, you have to actually speak up. You cannot be a passive bystander. Canada cannot be a passive bystander. So I say this very clearly. What President Trump is doing is reprehensible. What President Trump is doing is inflaming hatred. It is divisive. It is wrong. He is acting in a way which is fueling racism. He's acting in a way which is going to put people's lives at risk. And it is wrong, and it needs to be called out. It's difficult to stand up to bullies. It's difficult to call out hate. It's hard to do, but it must be done. And it takes courage, and everyone has to do their part. And I think the Prime Minister has an important role. Canada has an important role to call out when things that are so heinous are going on. There is a time where we cannot be silent, and this is that time. When President Trump says those hateful comments, those divisive comments, the international community has a responsibility to call it out, to point out that it's wrong. And that's why I think that what Mr. Trudeau did, Prime Minister Trudeau did, was wrong. He shouldn't have been silent. Far too long people have been silent and passive, and it is no longer the time for that silence.
Now, I thought that was a good response. That took actual courage to call out Donald Trump directly. Now, you could say, well, he's not Prime Minister, so there's less pressure on him. He has, less or no interaction with Donald Trump. Fair enough. We will see if he ever becomes Prime Minister, what he would do. But in this situation, this is what the Prime Minister should be saying. He should be calling out Trump directly. Understand that Donald Trump's going to say and has said whatever he wants to say whenever he says it. So why would you allow him to do that and also continue to get whatever he wants and act like your silence is the real way to fight him? It's not. So I think two clearly different responses here from two different leaders. Again, what Trudeau, this has always been his approach, really. He avoids every single question. If you watch these press briefings, very rarely does he get specific when it comes to answering them, when it comes to answering any of these questions. And this entire time, the Liberal government has been pressured by the NDP when it comes to their response to the pandemic. When it came to the $2,000 a month CERB, that was born out of a UBI, Universal Basic Income idea from the NDP of $2,000 a month. When it came to the wage subsidy of 75%, again, born out of the NDP. Much of the response from the Liberals has been born out of the NDP. That isn't to say, yes, the Liberals deserve credit here for listening to those ideas and enacting much of it. But still, understand that wouldn't be happening if it weren't for a party to the left, if it weren't for this pressure, and if it weren't for a minority government where Trudeau actually has to work with the other parties. But I don't know. Maybe he'll also take some notes here from Jagmeet Singh. But based on how Trudeau has treated Trump generally in the public, I don't expect Trudeau to really come out and have a different approach.